Hi, my name is Corey Niles, and I am the author of Death and Other Forms of Devotion, which is my first book of queer horror poetry. It's forthcoming from Alien Buddha Press and will be published on October 13th. Today, I wanted to discuss some background on this book of poetry, as well as read some selected poems. The collection really started taking shape in the summer of 2020. So I think it goes without saying we all had quite a bit going on at that time. And I was working through some things. And this concept of survival and this idea of loss of faith, whether in a religion or in another person, was very much on my mind. And as a queer horror writer who grew up Roman Catholic, I had a lot of these ideas swirling in my mind as far as the juxtaposition of religious ideology, religious iconography, and queerness and horror and surviving and the messy process that that can be. And that really culminated it in a book of poetry that explores a journey of faith and a loss of faith and ultimately survival. All right, so we're going to start off with Stairway to Hell. And actually, this poem was inspired by the 1850s painting Dante and Virgil in Hell. And that painting later became the inspiration for the cover art. Stairway to Hell. I require no railing or gentle hand to steady my descent. Every turn of that spiraling stairway, decorated with the husks of the hopeful, felt like a distant memory. Even if Virgil had appeared, laurel wreath adorning his head, I would have turned him away. I'd witnessed the devourment of Carpaccio's throat 1,000 times, and I welcomed those familiar circles, right down to the folly of man. All right, so we're going to jump to a little later in the first part of the book, to a poem entitled Reborn. You took my hand, curled it around the top rung of an electric fence. You held me there. You let the current surge through our bodies. You reminded me, you're alive. This next poem is now towards the middle of the book. It's entitled Mine. Water won't wash away the oil of your touch, so I lit a match, burned it away, screamed, until it charred my nerves, and all that remained were muscles, tendons, veins, bones, mine. Alrighty, so now we're going to actually transition to the third part of the book that's titled Goodbye. I didn't walk away. I sawed your clutching, grasping, outstretched hand off at the wrist, dunked it in my river of tears until the flesh peeled off, a glove that I donned when I waved goodbye. All right, so I have three more poems for you, and these are from later on in the book. The first one is titled I'm Alive. Can a drowning man be faulted for pulling himself out of the water, even when he drags another man down to keep himself afloat? Even when the air is far too sweet to hear his victim's garbled screams below the surface? Even when a part of me enjoyed it, because you've never cared enough to toss me a life raft. So I created my own. I won't apologize for taking what I needed. I'm alive. Alrighty, so our penultimate poem is titled The Sculptor. I won't erect statues in your honor. You have enough young men laying flowers at your altar. I'll tell onlookers that you were once human, glorious, monstrous, beautiful, terrible. A stack of overlapping negatives that could never be detailed in a stone as cold as marble, or understood by any man who shared your bed, especially one armed with a hammer and a chisel and a penchant for perfection that only exists in retrospect. The last poem I'll be reading for you today is titled Killing You. I had a funeral for you, my little friend, laid you out on a raft, burned your body to ashes, and sent you down the Mississippi River. A few weeks later, I did it again. Fire, water, a farewell. Over and over again. I don't know if it felt good the first time, if I felt some sort of relief, but now it's just a habit. killing you. Alrighty, so that's a few poems for my upcoming book of queer horror poetry, Death and Other Forms of Devotion. Again, that's coming from Alien Buddha Press on October 13th. I'd really appreciate it if you checked it out. If you do and you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads. It does a lot, especially for indie authors.